The Rush. You may have heard the term rush or rush army and wondered what the hell that means. Well, it is as self-explanatory as it sounds, but it's important to understand the concept of the rush army to really be effective with it. So let's get into the rush. So a simple rush army could look something like this: various swordsmen, various spears, and some cavalry. What do you notice about that? There's no ranged component, no artillery, no missiles. The idea is to move up as fast as possible, give the enemy no time to think, and overwhelm them with brute melee force. And because you haven't wasted your money on silly things like artillery and skirmishers, you'll potentially find that you outnumber the enemy in terms of melee troops quite significantly. This means that they don't have enough units to stop you flanking or stop you getting after their ranged units. And once you do get hold of their ranged units, you should be able to grind them up quite comfortably without too many of your own casualties. Now that's all well and good if you came with the rush paradigm in mind. But there is one situation where you'll be forced to become a rush army even if you didn't intend to be. And that's if you're at an extreme ranged disadvantage. So, for example, if you've brought 1 unit of artillery and your enemy's got 4 units of artillery, you're probably going to get obliterated by his artillery if you try to play the long game and do a little bit of a skirmish with it. So your best bet is going to be to forget that and just rush up on him as quick as possible. He spent a lot of money on those 4 units of artillery, so it means he has a lot less money that he's put into his melee troops, which means he probably doesn't have as many of them, meaning you can probably overrun him. The same rule can also apply if you're at a missile disadvantage. And there are of course many variables, so it's hard to say what the best course of action always is. But hopefully you get the idea from this. And it's important to also realise when you have the advantage, whether it be with artillery or missiles, and expect the enemy to rush. Now let me drop you a few examples. I'm playing as the Greenskins here online against the Dwarves. Now factions with strong artillery like the Empire or the Dwarves, people very often like to play very defensively. They sit back and just hammer you with artillery until you're half dead and then they'll come over and finish you off. So knowing this, I'm thinking nah. I will not be a victim of such dastardly tactics. So I've gone for a heavy rush army. I've got lots of armor piercing, I've got lots of numbers, I've got some cavalry, and I'm going to surround these bastards and absolutely obliterate them. And the important thing is, I haven't used up any of my money on skirmishers or artillery because I'm not really going to get much use out of it with this plan. It's also the fact that greenskin archers aren't very good against the dwarves because they don't have armor piercing, and in a one-on-one against a dwarven skirmisher unit, they'll get obliterated. So it's not really worth bringing them at all anyway. The point I'm loosely trying to get at here is to think about the faction that you're facing and what kind of army they are. If you're facing the vampires, for example, they have 0 range capabilities other than spells. So they're pretty much going to be a rush army all the time, unless they're not at a range disadvantage themselves, and then they may be more willing to chill out and just have some battles on the flank before the main army moves up. So make sure you know your enemy and check out what he's brought to the battle before you make any moves. Another one, I'm the Beastmen against the Elves. I have brought a Cygor to this one because I spawned it because it's pretty cost effective, but I have no skirmishers, and you can see the enemy archer range has just come into range now. I've been waiting back, I've been forcing them to come to me with the Cygor, but now that they're in range, I'm not hanging about because those missiles will cut through my lightly armoured goats pretty easily, so I'm going to rush up, and the enemy just seems a little bit paralysed, he doesn't really do anything, and I just completely, utterly surround him and overrun him. Beastmen units aren't too expensive, so it means you can bring a lot of them, and rush armies are obviously great with the Beastmen, so I used my range advantage with the Cygor and forced the enemy to come to me, and then when he was in range, I rushed up on him and took him down before he could use his range advantage on me. And there's always the Vanguard deployment option, which can be a risky one, but pretty cool if you can pull it off. Start your army right up in the enemy's face, giving him virtually no time to think and no time to use any kind of ranged advantage. Because only certain units can be Vanguard deployed though, it can be difficult to build a strong army purely of Vanguard units. So that's about all there is to the rush tactic. It's quite a simple one, there isn't too much to think about. It's more about situational awareness and understanding when the right time is to move up and rush, and when is the best time to stay back and try to use a ranged advantage, or just bring a rush army from the offset and try to catch people off guard. If you bring armies that people don't expect to be rush armies, like the Empire, no one expects the Empire to be a rush army, so people may try to out-artillery you because they think you're going to bring a lot of artillery because you're the Empire, but then you rush up on them, give them no time to use it, and they won't know what's going on. So there's lots of interesting options you can pull with the different factions, play on people's expectations and predictability, and you can have some fun with the rush army. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the future.